All right, I'm moving now to something called the doctrine of primary assumption of risks. This is a tremendously important concept for us. Read this first piece. Remember, I talked about inherency of the risk being a limiting factor on duty. In sports and in recreation activities that encourage and are best served by vigorous participation, these inherent risks are assumed. And as I said, the service provider has no duty to protect people from inherent risks. The kicker is this next sentence. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say most states will include simple negligence of co-participants and instructors and organizers in those inherent risks. In other words, what is happening here could not happen without the risk that somebody might be careless. Now, it doesn't cover gross negligence. It doesn't cover mean-spirited or intentionally wrongful acts. But in these states, in sports and recreation activities, negligence is tolerated. Now, different states that have adopted this negligence is okay sort of standard will restrict it to certain kind of activities. But generally speaking, what seems to be going on here is that activities which are communal in nature, in other words, there is participation by a group of people, and site-based, or at least they're doing it together at a place or at a location that's more or less designed to attract people for that purpose. And again, if it is something that calls for vigorous, active participation, there is going to be this kind of forgiveness. The forgiveness of negligence has been upheld in games of a variety of types. I mean, certainly hockey, baseball, football, lacrosse games, climbing, wall climbing. I mentioned that Ohio case earlier where the woman lost the belay in her gree-gree. But my effort to boil all of this down has produced what you see here in part 3, a risk management plan. I mean, this is so simple, I'm almost embarrassed. But the first inquiry is, what can go wrong? In other words, given this activity, what can go wrong here? And some good outfits, I remember Knowles, when I was very active there a couple of years ago, began sunsetting, or at least investigating, each of its activity areas, hiking, climbing, whatever it was. And they would address each one, and part of addressing each one of those sort of afresh, the inquiry would be, okay, well, what can go wrong here? So you look at the activity. Let's take something really dumb. I'm going to leave the conference room and I'm going to walk to the deli and get a sandwich. What can go wrong? Well, I know 3 or 4 things that can go wrong. Second inquiry, how do you reduce the chances of it's going wrong?